1. Tim Cain ordered to destroy Fallout source code, gaming's lost history crisis. 2. Fallout creator Tim Cain criticizes big publishers over game preservation. 3. The lost art of Fallout, Tim Cain on game preservation and corporate responsibility. 4. Game preservation crisis, Tim Cain's fight against lost development materials. 1. Tim Cain ordered to destroy Fallout source code, gaming's lost history crisis. Game developer forced to erase Fallout source code highlights alarming crisis in gaming preservation. It's about responsibility. The safeguarding of video game history is far more intricate than most people realize. From the necessary maintenance of physical cartridges to the internal practices companies employ to preserve their creations, the challenges are numerous and complex. Earlier this year, Tim Cain, the original Fallout's lead developer, expressed deep concerns about game preservation practices, revealing how the groundbreaking RPG's source code nearly vanished forever. In a newly released video, he elaborates on what he sees as a critical responsibility that's being neglected across the industry. The preservation crisis no one's talking about. In his candid recent video, Cain exposes a troubling reality that should concern every gaming enthusiast. Video game companies are routinely losing irreplaceable development materials while simultaneously preventing their own staff from preserving this cultural heritage. If you claim the authority to control these assets and forbid others from keeping copies, then you absolutely must take responsibility for preserving them properly, Cain argues passionately. It genuinely infuriates me when I see companies, especially executives in leadership positions, eagerly claiming authority without accepting the corresponding responsibility. People ask, why didn't you keep a copy? Well, when you're facing the threat of legal action, you delete everything. Cain personally experienced the loss of source code for many of his early career projects. But after the Fallout situation, he made a deliberate commitment to safeguard development materials for his subsequent works. This includes acclaimed titles such as Arcanum and the Temple of Elemental Evil, developed at Troika Games, the studio he established alongside fellow Fallout veterans. Yet possessing these materials doesn't grant him the freedom to share them with the public or preservation institutions. We simply can't distribute it, Cain explains regarding Troika's code. I've addressed this before. I don't possess ownership in terms of releasing it as open source, though I do own it in the sense that I can re-implement it in future projects if desired. The publishers involved, Sierra and Atari in these cases, owned the code exclusively for use in those specific games. Not even for potential remakes. Throughout his detailed discussion, Cain emphasizes the staggering amount of development history that has already disappeared, everything from foundational source code to invaluable design documents and production notes. Hard drives inevitably fail, paperwork gets misplaced during office relocations, and even digital storage media degrades surprisingly quickly over time. But here's where it gets controversial. Should developers risk their careers and face potential lawsuits by secretly preserving historical materials against corporate policies? And is the industry's approach to intellectual property fundamentally at odds with cultural preservation? What do you think about this growing crisis in game preservation? Have publishers gone too far in restricting access to historical materials, or are they simply protecting their legitimate business interests? Share your thoughts in the comments. Is Tim Cain right to be concerned, or is this simply the inevitable cost of a commercial creative industry? Stay connected with Meristation USA on X, formerly Twitter, for all your gaming and entertainment news, including the latest updates, breaking stories from the world of video games, movies, series, manga, and anime. Enjoy our previews, reviews, interviews, trailers, gameplay footage, podcasts, and much more. Follow us today. 2. Fallout creator Tim Cain criticizes big publishers over game preservation. Imagine a world where the very creators of legendary video games are ordered to erase their own masterpieces, this is the shocking reality of game preservation today. Fallout creator Tim Cain recently opened up about his frustration with how corporations handle, or rather, mishandle, the responsibility of safeguarding gaming history. His message is clear. Companies claim ownership, but refuse the duty of preservation, leaving priceless cultural artifacts at risk of being lost forever. Here's the unsettling truth. The original Fallout's source code almost vanished into oblivion, saved not by corporate foresight, but by sheer luck. Cain, in a candid YouTube discussion, highlights the absurd contradiction at play. IP holders assert absolute control over game assets, forbidding developers from archiving them, yet fail to protect these materials themselves. They told me to destroy it, Cain reveals, describing the pressure from publishers to delete backups post-development. When legal threats loom, compliance isn't optional, it's mandatory. But here's where it gets controversial. Cain doesn't just blame negligence, he calls out the hypocrisy. If you take the authority to keep these things and deny others the right to preserve them, then you'd better step up and actually do it, he argues. His anger is palpable and justified. DAT tapes, the fragile storage mediums of the 90s, had limited lifespans, yet even today, with cloud storage and advanced archiving tools, preservation remains an afterthought for many studios. And this is the part most people miss. The issue isn't just about old games. It's about who gets to decide what pieces of culture survive for future generations. Should corporations hold this power unchecked, even when they've repeatedly proven irresponsible? Cain's stance is unequivocal. Authority, without accountability, is a recipe for cultural erosion. So we're left with a burning question. Should developers defy corporate orders to preserve their work, even if it means legal risks? Or is the onus entirely on IP holders, and if so, how do we hold them to it? The comment section is open for your fiery debates. 3. The Lost Art of Fallout. Tim Cain on game preservation and corporate responsibility. It's a heartbreaking reality for many gamers. Pieces of gaming history are vanishing, potentially forever. Tim Cain, a key creator of the original Fallout games, recently revealed a troubling story about the fate of crucial art assets, and it shines a light on a much larger problem within the industry. Specifically, he was instructed to destroy backups of early Fallout development materials. Many fondly remember the distinctive clay heads used for character dialogue in the classic Fallout CRPGs. While they might appear somewhat rudimentary by today's standards, with their limited animation and somewhat unflattering features, they were a defining visual element of the era and a significant step forward in RPG graphics. Cain explains that these weren't simply sprites. They originated as fully realized 3D models created in software like Maya and Alias. These original source files, however, may be lost to time. Those source art files were huge. Cain detailed in a YouTube video. They were backed up to DAT tape, but I don't know what happened to that DAT tape, and those tapes don't have a long lifespan. They typically start to degrade after just 5 to 10 years. So, I strongly suspect that source art is gone. Cain's personal history is one of a dedicated archivist, someone who instinctively saves everything from production notes to old game consoles. He contrasts this with the directives he received regarding Fallout Star. He was actually ordered to delete his own copy of the game's source code, a command he reluctantly obeyed, fearing legal repercussions. Thankfully, a dedicated programmer independently preserved the code, preventing its complete loss. But for many other projects, the outcome hasn't been so fortunate. He emphasizes a critical distinction. I've lost stuff myself, and I actively try to preserve things, so I understand how companies can lose data. But they had the responsibility to do it. That's the core difference. He points out that simply having the authority to decide what's kept and what's discarded doesn't absolve companies of the obligation to ensure proper preservation. This raises a fundamental question. Should companies be legally obligated to archive their game development assets, similar to how film archives operate? Cain clarifies that simply defying orders wasn't a viable option. They told me to destroy it. I did. When you're facing the threat of a lawsuit, you comply. He also explains the practical difficulties of preservation in the 1990s, when storage media like discs and tapes were inherently unreliable. Beyond digital assets, physical materials like the clay heads and extensive design documentation presented their own challenges. Early materials were easily lost during moves, while later digital documents, created on platforms like Confluence, were difficult to back up comprehensively. Links would break, embedded art might not transfer, and the sheer size of the files made the process cumbersome. Interestingly, Cain notes a stark contrast in his experience at Obsidian Entertainment, where a robust archiving system was already in place. This highlights a key point. Effective game asset preservation requires a concerted, company-wide effort. It's not enough for individual artists or programmers to take on the task. It demands institutional support and dedicated resources. And this is the part most people miss. The sheer scale of archiving a modern video game, thousands upon thousands of individual components, requires a level of organization and commitment that often isn't prioritized. For fans of Fallout and other beloved games, the potential loss of these foundational assets is deeply concerning. But the risk is even greater for lesser-known titles, or those held by companies with less regard for their history. As Cain stated in his video, a lot of companies have lost things. I kind of sounded mad about it, and in a way I am. If you take the authority to keep these things and tell other people not to, and that they have no right to, then you also have to take the responsibility to keep them. It just kind of makes me mad when repeatedly companies, and especially people high up at companies, take authority, but no responsibility. Ultimately, the story serves as a powerful reminder of the fragility of our digital heritage. It begs the question, what can be done to ensure that future generations can experience and learn from the games that shaped our culture? Do you agree with Cain's assessment of corporate responsibility? What steps, if any, should be taken to address this growing problem? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss how we can help preserve gaming history. 4. Game preservation crisis. Tim Cain's fight against lost development materials. Imagine a world where the very fabric of our digital gaming heritage is at risk of vanishing into oblivion. This is not just a hypothetical scenario, it's the harsh reality that Tim Cain, a pivotal figure in the creation of the original Fallout game, confronts us with. Cain has voiced his concerns repeatedly about the precarious state of game preservation, underscoring a troubling trend where crucial historical artifacts are discarded or lost due to corporate policies. But here's where it gets controversial. While companies wield the power to dictate the fate of these materials, they often shirk the responsibility of safeguarding them. In a recent revelation, Cain shared a startling episode from his career. He was instructed to destroy his personal collection of Fallout's development assets, including the invaluable original source code. Despite this directive, some intrepid individuals managed to save the code, a testament to the underground efforts that sometimes counteract corporate mandates. This incident highlights a broader, systemic issue within the gaming industry, the tension between protecting intellectual property and preserving a game's historical and cultural legacy. Cain's frustration is palpable when he discusses how companies, particularly those at the executive level, assume control without accepting accountability. It just kind of makes me mad, Cain admits, reflecting on the repeated instances where responsibility is dodged by those in power. The stakes are high, as not only the source code, but also original 3D models and even physical artifacts, like clay models used in game development, have disappeared over time. Cain's own efforts to preserve game assets have been met with legal and corporate barriers, yet he has managed to retain some materials from later projects at Troika Games, the studio he co-founded. However, the rights to these assets are entangled with the publishers, limiting their public release. This narrative isn't just about lost data or inaccessible games. It's about losing pieces of our cultural heritage, lessons that could benefit future developers, historians, and gamers. Companies need to recognize their role not just as proprietors of intellectual property, but as stewards of history. As we delve into this issue, one must ask, should there be a more robust framework to ensure the preservation of game development history? How can the industry balance the need for confidentiality with the imperative of preservation? Your thoughts and opinions are invaluable. Join the conversation below, and let us know where you stand on this critical issue.